One of my favorite arguments to have, like by far, is coaches' salaries. It's probably like my favorite argument to have because people will say things like, "Oh, the coach is making too much money. He should cut his salary to save the budget." And I'm like, "Do you know what coaches are paid for?" And most of them, everybody goes to they got to win. I'm like, what else? Well, they got to build a good staff. Okay, now we're getting a little warmer. What else? I mean, if they don't win, they out. And that's when I know people have no idea what coaches are actually paid for. So when I hear them saying like, "Coach, he's overpaid," or he getting paid way too much money to just coach, I'm like, okay, so just coach. Let me tell you what just coaching does. They got to recruit and have recruiting influence, because just hitting the road to go recruit has no relevance in today's time. You can hit the road all day long. If you have no influence, that recruiting trip is irrelevant. Is relevant. You got to attract a good staff. You can't win just being the head coach. You got to build your staff. So who want to work for this coach? Who want to work like under his leadership? So you're paying for that level of influence. To get good coaches, to get good assistants, you got to have some level of influence, some level of leadership, some level of vision. Donors. Donors really run the school for the most part, right? Because they're bringing the money in to keep the school rolling and the athletic department rolling. If your head coach or your coach is not likable or personable or a good salesman who can sell the vision or who can actually interact with a donor or a booster or whatever it is, there's no money being made there. Then do they get along with the AD? Because you can have a great coach who creates a toxic environment, which causes the whole department to feel weird. That's another aspect of it. Then coaching. To be a coach is not just blowing a whistle, putting on a hat. You got to be able to know everything that's happening, know your players, know the scheme, hire the right people to deliver their expertise, be able to have a staff who's autonomous enough to think on their own, right? And you got to do press conferences, interviews. When you win, your reputation is up. When you lose, your reputation is down. When somebody don't like you, they come and attack you. So when coaches are being evaluated on what they're getting paid, personally, I would look at it from how much risk do they take on, how much risk do the school take on, what all they have to do, right? You're talking about dealing with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds with families. This isn't like the NFL where these are adults and grown men with wives who have a different level of responsibility. These are 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds coming from high school who have been managed and babied by their parents for 18 years. So now you're asking this grown man to not only run an enterprise, or this grown woman to not only run an enterprise, but to also babysit, mentor, guide, advise, deal with the off the field stuff, deal with the emotional roller coaster, deal with now they're making money. Like, I don't think people understand what actually goes into a coach at the collegiate level. They're not just going home and saying, "Yep, see y'all tomorrow." Like, they're answering the phone in the middle of the night when something happens. They're the first call when any type of tragedy happens. They're the first call when their players are acting unruly. So they're running a 24/7 enterprise. And if you think about it from a business side, as an entrepreneur, if you're running a business, when you leave work or you leave the office, you're not worried about anybody calling you because your employee or your contractors or your partners are at the bar doing doing cartwheels and all these things, or they get into a big fight. Those people usually are dealing with things on their own life, and you're running your business. In the college space, you're a manager, you're a babysitter, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you are an advisor, you a mediator between the families, you're a conduit on between your team and admin. You're with the press. You got a management team. You got so many things that's happening where it's not comparable to what an athlete does. People have that argument where they'll say, "Nah, the athletes are doing a job. Man, they are going to school for free, so they're getting paid to be educated." It's not a bad deal. I think everybody who got a job would love that tuition reimbursement, right? That's part of it. They get paid to be in shape. I think America has an obesity issue, right? I think it would probably be dope if everybody got paid to go work out and lift weights, and they get paid to eat healthy. They get paid to like run around, and then they get to go home, and they have no obligation to the budget, the enterprise, the anything. And I know somebody will think, well, without them, there wouldn't be this. Okay, well, two things can be true at once. You need the talent and the performance to, bring in the fans, but you also need some leadership to actually. You ain't Nobody's gonna go watch uh, uh, 18, 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds just run around playing catch. They're not doing that. So there has to be some level of, okay, yeah, we come in because of the structure, because of the organization, because we want to see the philosophy, right? Imagine you ask a player, hey man, what's the philosophy for this week? That 18-year-old is gonna say, score touchdowns. Okay, that's thank you, right? And I'm making light of it because I understand like the dynamics and the tension between the coaches making all this money, 3, 4, 5, 10, $12 million contracts. But for an athlete to make close to that too, without the same level of risk, responsibilities, and all those things, it's like we're not even looking at it from a logical standpoint. So when people say coaches are overpaid, compared to what? Because if you're saying they overpaid because the athletes need more money, who do you who do you think increases the value of an athlete? It has to be a coach. It has to have some structure. Because if there was no need for a coach, then it's like what are we talking about? And yes, without the athlete, then the coach don't have a job. But I think a coach can do more of their jobs without coaching on the field than an athlete can do their job. Because when COVID happened, coaches still had to do press conferences. They still had to go meet. They still was doing the budgets. They still trying to go recruit. They still was managing, social distancing. So when there wasn't any football, when there wasn't any games going on for some programs, coaches still had to be a part of the enterprise. The athletes were at home. Why? Because they were students. And we keep acting like they're not students, but they still were getting their school paid for, while everybody was trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay my tuition, or why am I paying this high tuition and I ain't on the campus. The athletes still got their tuition paid for. They still got their degree, and they got years back. So I think we got to start looking at it from a like a true holistic aspect where coaches aren't underpaid. They aren't overpaid. They're paid based on what the school is valuing. But to say that a coach is truly overpaid, you can't overpay someone when you're requiring them to do way more than the public eye is seeing. So that return on that investment, depending on the location, I may value this coach way more than they may value the coach, because we're asking this coach to do more than just blow a whistle. So when I hear people say coaches are overpaid, or the salaries are this, or the numbers are here, or we should just cut they whatever to give more to the athletes, I'm going to ask them. I want you to write it all down and tell me everything that an athlete does, and then tell me everything that a coach does. What's producing the highest return on investment for the enterprise, not for them too. Like these are just workers. These are just people who are part of the performance level. What's the enterprise look at and what are they valuing? Because you can't just say that a coach salary should be cut just because you think your favorite player should get paid more. Like that's not how enterprises work. Oh, I think they should get paid more because I really like their story. I really like them. Okay, pay them more. Every time you say yes to this, something gets told no. So when you say yes to this, and this gets told no, you probably won't have this much longer, which means this becomes like watered down because this needs this to function. So everybody is running this enterprise and they're governing their decisions from a lens of give and take, supply and demand, return on investments. What can we ask them to do more? Because you can ask a coach to do a whole lot more than you can ask an athlete to do, because there are so many NCAA rules and hours and compliance things that you can't ask an athlete to do as much as you would ask a coach to do. No matter what people think, this is not a full-time job for athletes. This is a real full-time job, 24/7 job for coaches. So their salary has nothing to do with what you think their value is. It's what's the return on that investment. If I pay them this much, I'm going to ask them to do this much. The more I ask you to do, the more I'm willing to pay. That's true ROI.